My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit. As I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Back Pocket Podcast, the podcast that says, this is normal for me, this is everyday stuff for me, we're the Back Pocket and we've got a big chest. My name is Jack and I'm joined as always by ex-score hater and Corey Durden superfan, Alistair.
I am one of those things. You can decide. And I will preface it, or suffice, what would you say after that? I hate ex-score.
Anyway, we had a close round of football, maybe the closest round ever.
It's the closest round in 50 years according to the stats.
Yeah, but I feel like...
And you know what? This podcast hates stats. We don't talk about stats.
Yeah, we've never talked about stats before, ever. But I feel like despite that, like, the one game that was outside of that margin was also 1 point at three-quarter time. So, like, every other game was less than 3 goals.
There wasn't really a bad game this round. And after weeks of us starting every podcast with, bit of a shit week for football this week.
We had, like, an awesome week.
We actually had a good one.
Back-to-back games.
So... yeah, I guess we could start off with a bit of a round review if you'd like.
I wrote that hoodoos continue for Brisbane trying to play in Tasmania and Geelong trying to play against GWS.
Yeah, GWS have 5 wins in a row at GMHBA Stadium, which I would say is unheard of, but several teams have done it, just not in the modern era.
Jeremy Cameron has a 1-8 win-loss record at GMHBA Stadium.
That's crazy.
Between Geelong Giants games. Yeah. Lost all his games at the Giants, came over 1-1 with Geelong, and then lost the next 5.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the strangest against team at venue records ever.
Freo forgot how to kick inside 50?
Yes, and last week there was one player trying for Freo, Alex Pearce, and this week there was another one. Won't mention him yet, but they had one player. If they learn how to get their good players all playing at the same time, it was Brayshaw 1 week, Pearce 1 week, another this week, maybe they'll win a game.
Most of their players were good except for when they were kicking inside 50 on the weekend. They were slow, to be fair, getting back. But like, the inside 50 discrepancy was insane. There was chat during the week where someone said that like, apparently one of the main things Peter Bell and Justin Longmuir butted heads on was that Justin Longmuir didn't train specifically kicking inside 50. He said that was like one of the things that come, and Peter Bell was like, no, I feel like you need to practice kicking inside 50.
I think that's the second most important kick in football.
Yeah.
I mean, kicking for goal probably I've not included, but it's the kick out of defence and the kick in the forward 50. Everything in between, you can improvise.
And then, like, in other close games, North seemingly trying to set up for a goal at the end there instead of just banging it in. Like, all they needed to do was rush a point themselves.
And that's what Essendon did last year against Fremantle. We all saw that, and it was awesome from them. But there was so much space in front of those two North players.
Just keep running and bang it long.
They really fucked it.
They tried to pass it. And
any of those North
Jack
forwards...
Payne put on like a 40-metre spoil, which was fucking incredible.
Any of those North forwards should have known the time of the game. Led back, punched it through. It doesn't matter as long as it goes through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a bit of a miss. But have they had that opportunity in game in a while?
Absolutely not.
The Collingwood game, but they were a point down.
And then they should have had a 50-metre penalty. And Ross Lyon should be put in a Supermax, I think, for crimes against football.
Yeah, I don't know what happened in that game because Carlton were 2 down on the bench going into three-quarter time, and Ross Lyon decided to turn it into a scrum.
Yeah.
I think he tried to tire them out instead of running them off their feet.
And they've got players who can run them off their feet. It was a very weird... Like, I mean, to be fair, Paul de Koning was clearly the one player that Carlton decided wasn't getting a rest. And you could see in that last quarter, he could barely hit a jog. Like, he was fast walking around the ground. Harry Mackay, legacy game, but... it was a weird strategy from St Kilda. They really seemed like they were coming back into it, and they just...
They slowed it down, they filled the stoppage, and played into Carlton's hands because they have a midfield that are accustomed to that slog midfield game.
It was like Voss said pre-game. He's like, we're not going to flood. He said, but if the game becomes a flood, that's up to them. Yeah. And St Kilda chose to make it a flood, and Carlton's contested ball midfield did just that.
He said it in the post-game as well. I think they asked him if flooding the contest was his idea in the third, and he smiled and said, wasn't my idea.
No, we did that. Our mids just followed their mids to the ball.
Which is kind of crazy because I expected them to fully run them off their feet in that
Yeah,
quarter.
like if Carlton could have had anything, it would have been a slow, contested muscle out instead
Especially
of run
after losing 3 defenders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What else? There was another game I wanted to talk about briefly. Hold on. Gold Coast still good in Darwin.
They're really good in Darwin, aren't they?
Yep. And we saw what happened last year. They just warmed up in their first game and then they dominated
there were some
Geelong.
efforts from Anderson and Graham in that last quarter that were just awesome. Like from a team that doesn't have a huge amount of experience in grinding out a win like that to just kind of when another team's coming back at you.
You know what they say? The Instagram picture, Noah Anderson is the most clutch player in the AFL.
Apparently so. But yeah, like the way that Graham and Anderson really just like they were crashing packs. Graham had one where he spoiled the ball and he clearly hurt his shoulder and then got back around onto it to put on a smother. Jed Anderson going back, spoiling the ball inside 50. Jed Walter, sorry. Jed Anderson.
No.
That's funny.
Not anymore.
Jed Walter had Jed in my head. That's fine.
Jed
the weekend for Jed. Abuse is back. He's good. But Jed Walter crashing packs and spoiling and putting on those second efforts was a big part of why they ended up hanging on to that game.
And Graham's stronger than you expect.
Yeah,
looking at him.
Yeah, he was very impressive. And then West Coast, a win feels so close for them. I felt
It's
so
rough.
bad for Gross, but
That tackle.
this is why you don't bounce after 4 steps,
They've got St Kilda next week at home.
which they could do.
So I'm not telling Eagles fans to celebrate yet.
It feels like it's right there. Like they've had a couple recently. They weren't embarrassed by Melbourne. They probably should have beaten Essendon. They probably should have beaten Richmond. They've got St Kilda and North in the next 3 weeks.
Whoever did the fixture and decided to put Adelaide home game against West Coast, that feels rough. If they're only going to play once
The
this
last
year,
time
that's
that
rough.
happened, it was one of the hardest to watch games of football of the year. So we'll see if it's that bad again. But that's fine. Should we do votes?
Yeah, well, round review into votes feels right. We talked about the games. Now let's talk about the individuals who made them special.
Special.
Oh, I don't like the way you said that.
Anyway, I did the intro. Who's your
Cut
one?
that. No. I got to do votes. I have just written down the player's first name, last name, one word.
Oh, okay.
Tom Brown tackle.
Tom Brown tackle.
They get one vote for that. We gave Heath Chapman a vote for a spoil on the first year of this podcast, so I'm giving Tom Brown a vote for his tackle.
It still might be the best spoil I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was in a highlight reel I watched the other day, and I was like, yeah, that's
It
fucking
was so
good.
sick. I can't believe he still only played 50 games.
I can't believe he's played 50 games.
Funny how we're on opposite ends of that one.
Well, time flies too quickly.
Tom Brown, spoil.
We only started this podcast
Tackle.
last year.
He was
so-
really good, though. He was actually very good in that game.
Yeah, I looked at his heat map, and I was like, oh yeah, this is decent. Don't care, tackle.
Yeah. He like the kids were like Sam Banks, Seth
Sam
Campbell,
Banks is the other one who
all
gets
really
the
good. I
honourable
thought
mention.
that they're like the impressive thing was that the game ended up being won by their kids this time, and they won as many games as last year in 9 rounds.
Yeah.
So hell yeah, Richmond.
Get that contract extension out to Uze.
My one vote was to Jath.
Yeah, I've got him in my honourable
He
mentions.
had 25 disposals, 12 of those were intercepts, 9 were contested, 5 spoils, 5 rebounds, 1 is only 1-on-1, 507 metres gained, 9 score involvements.
That's a lot of stats.
And 3 score launches. He also got 4 coaches' votes and had 15 rating points.
He did.
So,
I've always liked Jath.
yeah. Yeah, he had a few weeks there, and obviously coming back from injury, it's always going to be a bit different, where he looked so far off the pace, but I feel like from that game, he's no longer so far off the pace.
Yeah, he's
so,
doing well.
yeah.
And, I mean, Hawthorn are in... They're playing...
The way the
shit
best of their
teams,
backline
but-
is performing is probably hurting James Sicily's football.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say. Who was your 2?
My 2 votes, I have written down his name and 2 stats. Sam Taylor gets
Sam Taylor was a special mention for me.
2 votes for his 9 spoils and 8 marks. He had as many marks as he did intercepts, I think. Great game. Obviously, playing against the likes of Shannon Neal, but I thought he was quite good.
He and Buckley did a really good job of just curtailing, and John still scored 100, but so it's weird to say, but they did a really great job of curtailing the Neal Dangerfield combo when the ball was kicked into them. My 2 was to Andrew McGrath. He had 35 disposals, only 2 of those were kick-ins. He had 11 marks, won 3 1-on-1s with 745 metres gained.
He sure did, and that's why I have him as my 5 votes for
5
the week.
votes. Yeah. he was really good. I was saying to someone when I was at work, this was like only midway through that game. It wasn't even over yet. But we were watching that game during the breaks.
Andrew McGrath legacy.
And I was like, if Andrew McGrath wasn't a number one pick, he would just be considered a really good footballer. But it's because he was a number one pick that he's seen as a disappointment, and he didn't pick himself there. Like,
fine.
He's become a really, really good small defender.
It's just a shame he couldn't crack in the midfield, but they don't need him there.
Yeah,
now.
no.
And they don't need him there.
One of the best, and he locks down as well. That's the important thing. Like,
Yeah.
he manages to lock down a player and get a lot of the ball. He's become one of their most important cogs.
Yeah, it's the winning 3 contest that really nailed it for me. For a small to win 3 contests and have 745 metres gained, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So was your 2?
I did my 2 with Sam Taylor. My 3...
Oh, yeah, sorry.
My 3 is to Jordan Clark, the Fremantle player who was the only one playing the right game plan.
He was very good. He was a special mention for me. So
they were
doing completely mismatched votes this week.
They were doing their forward handballs, and he was the only player gut running D50 to forward 50.
Yeah.
It felt like. So he had a 21.1 rating for the game, which is huge. 33 disposals, 24 kicks, 462 metres gained, 8 intercepts, 5 score involvements, and 3 spoils. He was just about, in my opinion, their best player on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for agreeing.
My 3 was to Big Chom, Charlie Comben.
I've got Chom in my special mentions.
He had 21 disposals at 95. 12 of those 21 were intercepts. Of his 9 marks, 7 of those were intercepts. He won 3 of 4 one-on-ones. Had a 22.7 player rating at centre-half back, which is genuinely nuts. And he had 3 score involvements and a score launch. He was great. He's good. He's really good. It was funny, I was listening to an interview from Nick Larkey that was only published this week, but was from...
He's doing shit impressions again.
No, he wasn't this time. But was from several weeks ago. And he was just... The praise he had for Comben and the structure he's given them was huge. He was saying, like, sure, there was the first game of the year against Melbourne where he had all those intercepts and that kind of thing, he said, but then, like, the few weeks later where it's all spoils and cutting off contests and helping out the other defenders is the real value he's giving. And I was like, it's really cool to hear that his teammates value the work he does that much. Comben was my 3.
And those reasons are pretty much the reason for my 4 votes, which goes to Nick Haynes.
Nick Haynes was my 4 votes also.
Who thought after round 1 that you would give Nick Haynes, I think, a 5 2 weeks ago?
We've had like 5s, 3s and 4s in the last few weeks.
What an insane turnaround. It's become a Nick Haynes legacy season almost at this
Genuinely.
point.
He played like that game against Geelong. We're like, damn, dog. And he just keeps doing it.
Yeah, so I think the most important part was he got kicked in the head, had to go off. Carlton with 3 defenders down at that point, and he came back and got better. The way he was reading the ball in particular, before it was kicked, he was running to the right spot. It was kind of insane to watch. They've been replaying the footage over and over on all of the 80 different panel shows they do, and it still impresses me because no one else is reading the ball the way he did in that back 50.
I was glad the coaches agreed because I saw a lot of like of those 80 panel shows saying that Jack Silvani was the better of the defenders on the weekend. I was like, I don't think that's true at all. Like, it was.
I think he was good.
Haynes.
He was clearly good. But
yeah, Nick Haynes was incredible. 9 spoils in that, in addition to 9 intercepts and 7 of those being intercept marks.
Yeah.
We talked about it during the game. The way he sees a kick is dropping short before the forward and just sprints off of them. He just gets a 10-metre break so fast.
The other thing he's done that he didn't do in that round 1 game, he throws his body at any player that is in his path or between him and the ball.
He no longer has that hesitation, which was definitely there early.
So hopefully his body holds up because he's playing really well.
Absolutely. And your 5 was Andrew McGrath.
Yeah.
And my 5 was his compatriot. Well, not compatriot because he's not Canadian. His teammate.
His compatriot.
Zach Reid.
His compadre. Zach Reid was my honourable mention because I couldn't give 2 votes to Essendon players.
I struggled with it, but I could have almost given 2 to Essendon and 2 to Carlton this week with the way those boys all played.
It was interesting, but Zach Reid is the top of my honourable mentions.
27 8 intercepts, 451 metres gained, 8 defensive half pressure, 7 spoils. Also got 7 coaches' votes. He was awesome again. He's just to step in the way he has, especially with Ridley out now, and to be playing the football he is in what is only his 3rd year on the list, let alone as basically a first-year player, considering the amount of football he missed. He's doing great.
My Harley Reid for Zach Reid and 2 first-round picks, hypothetical getting worse by the day. Drop those picks, straight swap. Harley Reid might need to come with some sweeteners.
Yeah, I mean, the Reid of the Week show must just be ticking off
Oh,
Zach
I
Reed.
think the
every
read
week
of
at
the week, they're doing it on goals, aren't they?
It's everything. They have like a...
Oh, okay.
So, like,
Well,
obviously
he's
the
probably
goals...
winning intercept marks.
Yeah, I think so.
The rest of my honourable mentions, James O'Donnell had a huge game
Had
up
him in
Darwin,
there too.
but games in Darwin don't count. So no votes.
Yep, that's what I was like. I was talking about the Bulldogs. I was like, well, technically games in Darwin are a 5-goal head start. So the Bulldogs won that game.
Oh, there you go. Connor Rozee I have as an honourable mention, and I'm glad you left him out as well because that was the one I said might be contentious. Yep. Because clearly people thought he was incredible when he was pretty good.
He was pretty good.
And I've got Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera, who only had an okay game, and I feel like if he had a fantastic game, St Kilda probably would have won.
Yeah. I also had Josh Worrell in my special mentions.
Just pencil him in for at least an honourable mention minimum at this point. Yeah.
I wrote the round highs again. Spoils was Harry Edwards with, I forgot to write the number down, I think it was 13.
74.
Intercepts was a 4-way tie between Comben, Jaff, Keane and O'Donnell with 12 each. Keane including that match-winning mark at the end, which was awesome. Intercept marks, Comben and Haynes took 7 each. Tom McCartan had the most one-on-one neutralisations with 4 out of 5. Josh Worrell had the most rebounds, 50s with 11. And I'm not doing the lossless one-on-ones because 12 players tied for 3 contested defensive one-on-one. I didn't write them all down. I just wrote 12 players tied on 3.
Weak.
Yeah, all right. So Haynes is storming up. Basically, is what
I don't like that.
He's flying up.
We've got to stop giving him votes.
Well, he's got to stop playing insane games of football. Like he probably from the last 4 weeks would have the most Carlton coaches votes.
And it's very funny because that week that you gave him 5, I didn't give him any.
You gave Silvani votes that week.
I gave Silvani votes because I was like, nah.
Who did a great job on Dangerfield, and I actually do agree that Silvani was very good.
Those two are playing an excellent season, and Carlton's only good line this year is their defence, so it makes sense that we're giving them votes. Are they second or third in defensive rating?
Yeah, one of the best rated defenders.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's not biased. I don't want to give them votes. Every week I try and find an excuse.
You've left them out some weeks where I'm confused by it, so it's fine.
And it's funny because I make fun of you if you give a 2 to Sam DeConing when he has a really good game.
My Mark O'Connor won last week because I was like, I can't give him more than 1 when he's like got like 5 coaches votes for that game.
If anything, we're halfway biased against.
And Wiedering still won it last year.
Yeah.
It's woke round this week according to 50% of online football fans.
Yeah, it's woke round.
It's woke round. I love woke round.
I would like multiple woke rounds.
Yeah, I agree. We only get 2 weeks. We get 2 little weeks of woke in the middle of the year.
Yeah, we need a LGBTQ round.
I think most of the kit I've seen is fantastic. I think West Coast is a bit lackluster, but every other team...
They're fine. They're all good.
Every other team looks great.
I do quite like the Geelong one this year.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
What was the one
Freo's is fucking amazing this year.
Introducing the colours is good.
Yep.
We've seen a couple of them in action already, which is good, but...
I would like it if all the teams could get on board with the naming.
I
know there's difficulties with like a lot of the Melbourne teams just still being in NAM, technically.
Yeah.
I know Collingwood has one they're not using. I'm sure Carlton could use the word for blue, much like how West Coast used the word for Western Eagles instead of whatever. Sydney could probably do the same with Swan.
I'm sure...
It's used for Geelong, which is literally just G-Lang, the easiest one to translate and understand.
Just a little bit on the O. It'll happen naturally. I think that's the best way to do it. Enforcing it will feel wrong.
I agree.
Getting them to all sort of fall in line. Like this week we've got Adelaide and... No, we don't. I was looking at last week. Sorry. They've changed the names on the app.
Yeah.
But like you've got teams playing against each other. And it looks good to have both the names be changed. When it's like...
Well, I'll say my favourite one we're not getting this year
Western Bulldogs,
is Yarrapulti and Nam, because on the TV it says Yarna.
Yarna.
And I like Yarvi Na.
Yeah. Australia would vote for Nah.
But yeah, historically.
We would vote for Nah.
We did do that. Which everyone thinks means that we don't have to do Doug Nichols round anymore, apparently. That's the sentiment I'm seeing online. Because people are dumb. Anyway, I think Doug Nichols round is sick. I think the teams that change their logo as well are the ones that are doing the best job. I think like Freo,
Adelaide,
Port Adelaide, like on the outside.
Yeah,
they all look amazing. And I think more teams should embrace that part of it too.
I think it will get there.
I agree. I do. Happy 2-year anniversary to Robbo seeing the moon.
Oh,
that feels like it was so much longer ago.
Honestly, it feels closer to me.
Yeah?
I don't.
Is that the moon?
I don't watch a lot of 360 anymore. So like,
That's true.
Robbo in
Yeah.
my head is
Yeah,
still
yeah.
slurring and talking about the moon coming back from a 3-week
It's one of the
gastro.
funniest. It's one of the funniest bits.
Yeah. You done a
That's
photo?
Jared, that's such a great photo. Is
You
that...
done a Photoshop where you put Moon Man in the moon?
Yeah, I did do the
Yeah,
Photoshop.
of course
with
you
the-
have. Of course you fucking
Because I
have.
did it that night when he was on the front bar unexpectedly, and I was like, "Is that the Moon Man?"
You're the worst.
Essendon's injury list is becoming incredibly cruel.
Yeah, but they don't care because they're winning.
Yeah, but they're just winning against teams that they should be comfortably beat. Like
Sydney's a good win.
Sydney's a good win, but they got pumped on
It
expected
is.
score.
It is rough when you've got 3 ACLs and an Achilles.
Two Achilles and 2 ACLs all season ending.
Isn't
or
it
is it-
3 ACLs?
Might be. Anyway,
Either way.
4 season-ending injuries to very key players.
Yeah.
Ridley out again with an 8 to 12 week hamstring.
Yeah, it's-
Parrish is indefinitely missing.
But the good
They should
thing
have traded
is,
Parrish to Geelong for a first rounder a few years ago when they had the chance.
genuinely. But the good thing is, whilst I personally think that Ridley improves their team a lot, they haven't missed him with the influx of Reed's ability.
And Redmond obviously does a good enough job to cover what he needs to cover.
Parrish has been replaced.
Yep.
They've got Durham, they've got Caldwell, who's back now. The other ones, the rucks, that hurts because Goldstein is battling.
He's
at the
struggling.
moment.
He needs a rest, but they can't give him one.
But that's fine. Mid-season draft's coming.
And like the right caddy forward line looks fine at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just a case of finding someone to ruck. Because it's Vigo Vicentini, isn't it, who's like their only other...
No. Vigo Vicentini is... Yes, Vigo Vicentini's theirs. Dante Vicentini
Yeah, it's Ports.
is Ports.
And
but
he's
project.
very raw.
And
Like,
I think they
he's
have
a-
another project ruck.
Yeah.
So they can't... Whoever they pick up in the MSD, if they do pick up a ruck,
It has to be like a 28-year-old, like someone who's ready.
Yeah.
Which is brutal for them.
And again, mentioned it on the podcast the other day, it's Matthew Cruz's 36th birthday, and he is younger than Todd Goldstein, who is still rucking.
They should rookie draft Matthew Cruiser.
Nah, that's not on.
Do you see the Tassie draft hand was announced?
Yes,
And the weird...
and I did want to talk about that actually,
Yeah.
so I'm glad you brought it up, because I forgot about it.
So their draft hand in 2020, I want to say 7.
It might be 8.
They're coming in 20, I think it's 27 draft 8 is the year they come in.
Okay.
Either way, will be 1, 3, much like Gold Coast was in their first year. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. But 9, 11. But they have to trade 5, 7, 9, and 13 for players.
They have to be players?
They have to be players. The picks that come back with them, if they are attached, have to be worth no more than 40% of the draft capital of the pick they've traded out. So pick 5 can go out for a player and maximum pick 21 in return.
That's fine.
Which is what they should do with every single one of those picks. They should trade them for the highest possible pick back they can get.
And a shit player.
And like a player that's just going to be best 22 and not much more. Like if they can pick up a player who will be a 25 disposal a game
Does
mid.
this system work in tandem with the same thing that GWS and Gold Coast got, where they could recruit any player?
Pre-listing?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No.
Like the Gary Ablett.
Ablett and
I'm not sure on that yet.
because each of those clubs got about 10 players,
Yeah. Well, as Simon Black called them, the mercenaries.
which is stupid.
Which was the first.
Is Callum Ward a mercenary?
And then, well, I mean, that was just their first Q-clash. And then Gold Coast won, which was quite funny.
That's funny.
Um,
Yeah, so is it in tandem with that? Because why trade them for players if you can
I have
just
to
give
assume
them
it's-
that little bit extra
I
money
have to
and get them
assume
for
it's
free?
not, but who knows? Because
Because if not, they're in trouble.
they'd have to be targeting Pierce, Sanders, like all the Tasmanian boys.
Pierce
Kolodjasny.
is too old.
Yeah, but that's true. He'll probably go as a coach. But Kolodjasny would
Sanders
be a prime pickup to like be their first year. Like he'll be 32.
Yeah.
So that's like a nice for their first couple of years to have someone down there. Sanders is perfect
Lockie
age for them to want
Cowan
to
is
pick up.
also the right age. His hamstrings stay together. There's a couple more. Like Nankervis is too old. Pierce is 30 this week or something. I don't know. I changed his birth.
Yeah.
Change his birthday
changes.
every
Yeah. He's 26, he's 28, he's 32.
Yeah.
He was 34 at the start of the year.
He's a leader of Hamas this
He
week.
is. He is up Hezbollah. It's insane.
I know what you said, but I just thought of Hezbollah.
The craziest one I saw
The
was
height
this week where
difference
someone was
between
like,
the two of them.
someone was like, and speaking to a Fremantle insider, the club has said that they have not been very affiliated with Jewish interests and have paid much more attention to Indigenous interests. I was like, as they should as an Australian rules football team.
I am looking forward to round 12 when they do change their logo and name to something Jewish to make up for Alex Pearce's horrible misdeeds.
It's so
It's
odd.
crazy that I've not seen a single person at the club speak out about it. A single person in the AFL speak out about it. But Carolyn Wilson's having a mare. Every journo in the world is just losing their mind.
The AFL does not see it as an issue. Clearly the club does not see it as an issue. Like Longmuir said basically that they spoke to him about just being careful in what he's sharing. That's about as far as they took it. But it's being blown out of proportion by that. And we haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, and I was going to last week. But clearly,
we've left Gaza and Palestine out.
Clearly, this podcast unequivocally supports Marnie Vinyl and Alex Pearce and the abuse they're getting online. Sophie Welsh also, the way they're being treated online is insane. Mm-hmm. We're clearly pro-Palestine. If you couldn't figure that out from the way we talk about any other social or cultural issue, and Alex Pearce is a footballer who has expressed less extreme views than a lot of his peers and is having takedown articles written about it.
It's we're in a competition where players are literally sexual abusers. That should probably be at the forefront rather than what Alex Pearce has shared to his Instagram.
Yeah, like Riley O'Brien was on a far-right podcast talking about Jordan Peterson, and that was just not even mentioned.
It's rules for me. What rules for thee and not for me?
Yeah.
If someone was sharing pro-Israel stuff on their Instagram,
be fine.
No one would mention it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough on that topic because that is way out of
It's a bit heavy for the podcast about funny spoil.
Yeah.
That guy got a falcon.
But also, he's a fullback, so we have to like straight away.
Or we were defending him anyway.
That's our. I mean, he's really pushing for like the preseason discussed woke 22 versus non-woke 22. He's going to steal that captaincy from Darcy Moore. He's got it now.
Darcy Moore's got to do something outrageous.
Darcy Moore wasn't at the boys in Freo.
He's going to have to dye his hair rainbow.
Something like that. Yeah. Also, after James Jordan clearly just did a bad job of it, and everyone went, "You can't tag Dacos."
Yeah, you can.
Clearly, you can tag Dacos.
And it's quite funny because you do it and he immediately starts playing up injuries.
Yeah, like round one. Bedford got him.
Cramp.
He had a cramp. I'd say the only one he didn't play out the cramp was when Hewitt tagged him because it was really more of a run with than a tag. Even then, Hewitt beat him pretty comfortably. Mullen weirdly destroyed him, especially in the last quarter.
That was odd.
Still can't. And then, unsurprisingly, Freo sent someone to him after watching it happen a couple of times.
No one saw...
No one thought it'd be Wagner?
No one saw Wagner coming, and no one saw Wagner being good at it.
Yeah.
He was obviously doing the old St Kilda pre-tackle, but it stopped him. Yeah, he couldn't influence the game.
He went forward, he took up marks. After he missed it was almost like missing that goal so badly.
You say that as if they didn't win.
Yeah. Almost like missing that goal that badly killed his confidence being up forward as well. Because after that moment, because we thought he was going to tear the game apart down there.
We were like, he's going for 6.
Because Wagner was too slow to follow him on a lead. So like he took those 2 marks in a few minutes, kicked the first goal, almost kicked the second one out in the full, and then was unseen the rest of the game. And look, he obviously runs so much. So I'm sure when he does get cramp and stuff from a bloke lying on top of him all game, they are there. But clubs are going to do it now.
They're going to have to sort him out because he's fallen behind in the coaches' votes. Craig McRae can't get him to the top. It's Connor Rosie now.
I know. Imagine if Jordan Dawson won.
Rosie? I don't know how to say that name anymore.
Rosie.
Connor Rosie.
I think it's Rosie.
I feel like Mark Rashudo might have infected my brain.
That's bad.
This is why you don't watch football on a Saturday.
Rosie. Oh no, Rosie.
Seriously, I turned the sound off. I did it last week when Carlton played them. I did it this week.
This week you said if Rue's commentating this game, I'm not watching it, and then ended up watching it on the small screen because
I can't.
I was like, oh man, this Bulldogs game's blowing out. And then I changed back to the showdown, and I went, hang on, this Bulldogs game's getting good. And I changed back to the Bulldogs, and I was like, hang on, this showdown's getting good. And they were all at the same time.
It's the problem with this week, but I mean, most weeks we're begging for a good game to swap to, so let's not complain.
There's been weeks where there's been neither game has been good. So
like you get even swap to a West Coast and a North game this week, and they were good. So
yeah, that's true.
And I mean, despite it being a slog, at least the St Kilda game was close.
Speaking of games,
unlimited games.
Game of the week next week.
Oh, sure. I'm actually not in the app anymore.
Oh, sick. Well, I've got them here.
Cool, because Thursday night actually gives up
that's
a good
literally what I put down as
prospect.
game of the week. Gold Coast, Hawthorn and Darwin. Hawthorn now enter their big run where they've got to play genuine contenders kind of all in a row.
Yeah.
So Gold Coast at Darwin first. Sydney Carlton will be weird and interesting. Cause
It's weird. You've got Gold Coast Hawthorn, which is a top 4 clash currently.
Yep.
Sydney Carlton, who are two teams who are vying for that
So
sort of
up and
8th
down.
spot, and they're both sort of in and out of form.
And they play weird games, those two as well.
Collingwood, Adelaide have a recent history and are both in the top 8 at the moment.
And no Darcy Moore.
Port hate Geelong.
Oh, yeah.
And Geelong don't think about Port.
Last year, that was their grand final. Yeah.
But Port hate Geelong, so you don't know what's going to happen there, even if Port are low down on the ladder.
Yep.
GWS Fremantle's interesting. They're both in the same sort of bracket at the moment. Bulldogs Essendon.
Who knows?
I think Bulldogs will be
think
too good
they
for
should
them,
be.
but that's an
Marvel,
interesting
man.
prospect.
Marvel. Who knows?
Richmond North.
Could be a
Anything
great-
could happen.
If they both play like last week, it'll be an awesome game.
And then you've got Brisbane versus Melbourne
Yeah,
and
Brisbane and West
West
Coast,
Coast,
St Kilda, and
St Kilda.
Perth.
so
Could you imagine if we get the quality of a West Coast game with the coaching of a Ross Lyon game?
they've dumped some stuff on the Sunday. But honestly, I think this round coming up is going to be good, which means we're going to get 2 good games and everything else is going to be a blowout. Because I looked at this last round and went, oh.
Last week I was like, only one of these games looks interesting. Tip, 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 and then watched the weekend. I was like, holy fuck! Like just like banger after banger after banger, or whatever Lady Gaga said.
So yeah, I think Collingwood, Adelaide is my pick.
Mine's
in
Gold
Melbourne,
Coast Hawthorn, and it
big
shouldn't be
test for
because
Adelaide.
it's in Darwin and Gold Coast win those
And
games.
no Darcy Moore. So that back line up against
I
Phil
know,
Ford
yeah, like it's just Frampton, who's
Yeah.
done some great work this year, but he's
in
done it
tandem.
with Darcy
Yeah.
Moore.
So I'm interested to see how that goes. Will Collingwood adjust their game plan for that? Do they have anyone to bring in?
I don't think so.
What's his name?
Charlie Dean?
Charlie Dean. Charlie Dean and Frampton.
Well, from what I heard,
Charlie and Billy.
the few weeks that Moore was out already, they weren't playing Dean.
Yeah.
What I heard from Collingwood fans is he is on the outer.
Oh, damn.
He is apparently not what they were hoping he would be. But who knows? Like, tall players take longer time to come on. Maybe he just needs a couple of years in the VFL, and then suddenly he'll be that guy. But I've not heard hugely promising things. You had stocks up, stocks down this week, you reckon?
Oh yeah, I've got stocks up, stocks down. Stocks up is on a player we've already mentioned and put his stocks up against Harley Reid. It's Zach Reid.
Zach Reid. I was going to
If
say
you
Zach
haven't,
Reid
if you
also.
haven't bought into Zach Reid, buy.
I had very early stock in
I mean,
Zach
you
Reid.
could probably still buy into him in AFL fantasy. That's how well he's going. He's turning up. His break even's still low.
My stocks up are in a guy that I had stocks in very early. I remember talking to you about it, and then he just hasn't played since. Is Cooper Simpson, who was just
He was good.
awesome in those
Yeah.
that first half, especially. I was talking to someone about him. I was like, I had stocks in him, I was so big on him. His
You wanted to
Colts
draft him.
year was incredible. And then he's finally showed a bit of it. He looked really good off half back because he brings physicality and he's fast and he's a pretty good kick.
Yeah.
So that's my stocks up. Is Cooper Simpson.
Just another Cooper. Add them to the
So many
fucking
Coopers.
list.
You call everyone Cooper anyway, so it's really easy for you to remember his name. In fact, he was the one that we brought it up for, wasn't it? You were like,
I don't
is his
remember.
name Cooper? I was like, I'm pretty sure.
That's
his name's
Connor.
Cooper. Yeah. Connor Simpson.
My stocks down will be your stocks down. And I feel like we should have sold stocks weeks ago if we didn't already. But Sean Manor from the Geelong Football Club. Now, don't be fooled. His rating points may be high, and his goals in last quarter may be clutch. But boy, is he one of the most frustrating players to watch.
There's a person I talk to online all the time, friend of mine, Chris.
That's why I wanted to bring it up.
He and I seem to be the only people in the world who are like, I don't get it. He doesn't seem like a Chris Scott player.
But that's sort of evolving because not Dangerfield, Cameron and Bailey Smith are not.
I think that he's changing the mentality, which is why Manor gets away with that stuff.
Yeah.
And he does very, very good things. That's not.
Ollie Dempsey as well.
But
Add him to the list.
his decision making sometimes.
He does the dumbest thing
When
followed
he
up
gets
by
run down in a tackle for he doesn't need to. He's not like there's things ahead of him. Anyway,
He'll do the dumbest thing you'll see on a football field from a Geelong player in years.
And then
2 minutes later, he's just bobbed up in the right spot, kicked a goal, and Geelong are somehow in front. And you go, well, fuck.
I do think that there was. Tom Green gave away 2 50-metre penalties that weren't paid to him because it was the last 2 minutes and that's how things are umpired. And he would have kicked the match-winning goal. And we would have been sitting here again.
Yeah.
He probably would have gotten coaches' votes if he kicked that goal. And we'd have been sitting here again being like, no, you didn't watch the rest of the game.
Yeah. Clutch.
He
Call
is.
him clutch in those moments. Absolutely.
That was where it was so funny. I saw a post the other day and I was talking to Roy from AFL Glico with the modelling and stuff the other day. And they talked about Sean Manor and said that he's a bits player and he'll never win you a game off his own boot. I was like,
he did it 2 weeks ago.
Already in his short
Two
career,
years here.
He's won like 3 games off his own boot, maybe more.
Yeah.
In less than 50 games. That's all he does. That's all he does.
He's a bits player, and his bit is if you need a goal in the last quarter out of nowhere, it's probably going to be him.
He kicks, like, you'll see games where you'll be like, man, I think he sucked, and he's kicked the first goal, the last goal, and 4 goals total, and you're like, hang on, how did I miss all of that?
Yeah, because all you saw was him sputting it up in the middle and turning it over and getting run down tackled.
So, like, he's...
so you take the good with the bad, but
he's
I'm
not
putting
for
my
me.
stocks out.
He's not for me.
It doesn't feel like Geelong.
It doesn't. It's because, like, after years of watching people at Geelong get selected just for being the best they can be with their ability...
He's played more games this year than Jed Beers. Think about that.
Jed, my boy Jed. I was so happy to see him back.
You should have stocks up Jed
I
Beers,
couldn't believe it. And he was good again. He's just a really, like, it's so funny. Last year we were like, well, he's done. He might get a farewell game. And then he came back with like 3 weeks to go, and it was like, okay, so it's not a farewell game. He's just part of this 22. Played the whole final series, got a plate in his hand in the off-season.
He was one kick away from playing in a grand final.
Yeah. He could have been a 2-time premiership player, Jed Beers. And you know what? Deserves to be. Anyway, I love Jed Beers.
You would say that.
But, again, then has the plate, then has the surgery in his hand in the off-season, has the plate put in, gets it taken out, and you're like, he's struggling to get back into this team. And then suddenly every backman Geelong have gets injured.
Yeah.
Jed Beers plays one game, not even one game, didn't play in the VFL, straight back in, and he was probably in their best 10 players.
Yeah, I saw someone on one of those footy media panel shows, don't remember who because I don't really pay attention to them that much, but it said Jesse Hogan's performance, I do remember, it was Gary Lyon. He said Jesse Hogan's performance, the best performance from a key forward this year, and against a Geelong backline.
Yeah, with with Stanley out, so Blixar's rucking, no Kolodajny, no Henry, no Stewart, and no Humphreys, who's been the intercept king for them recently.
Against the Geelong backline.
Yeah,
and Sam De Koning, who looks like he has given up on football.
Yeah, against a very sad and tired Sam De Koning, Mark O'Connor, Oisin Mullen, and Zach Guthrie, who was
to be fair,
very
they did a good job.
But like O'Connor O'Sullivan just couldn't keep up with it. Hogan, and you wouldn't expect him to at his age. Like, no. Anyway.
And it sucks because we bookmarked Henry for such a good year at the start, and he was playing so well.
He was, and hopefully he's a week or two away, but... he's such an important cog.
I've accidentally tricked us into talking about Geelong for the end of the podcast.
Cog. You did that.
I didn't do any deep dives this week because my workplace has become very, very busy, and it will be for the next 3 weeks.
I've been pretty flat out.
So my contribution to this podcast will be minimal, and then around bye time when we have less games is when I'll be back with a vengeance. I
don't think I'm even going to have time to write a piece for This Week in Football this week. I've just been busy, so... That happens. That's fine. And also, I don't want to, like, force something to write about. I don't want to write about something that's just, like, for the sakes of writing. So.
I was going to say your fan will be very upset.
My one fan. Oh, look, me personally writing, a few guys read that. I think when someone like Cody writes, a lot more people read that.
You just get the extra views.
But I know...
You're the opening band.
I know James Ives is working on some really good stuff this week, so obviously still check it out. I'm not sure who else is going to write for it.
Check it out because Jack's writing it. Check it out because of the other
people. Check it out because there's a lot of like really good at what they do people. Like with a lot of the data I get, I've asked for help finding it because I'm not capable of coding that stuff like they are. Like my piece last week about the ruck positions and that kind of thing, I messaged Emlyn and I was like, hey, can you let me know where the rucks have been getting their possessions this year because I don't know how to find that. And like everyone in there is really good. So it's definitely worth supporting, and it's free. You can literally subscribe to it for free, and every Thursday get some football stuff to read about. That's
stuff from people who care about the game and aren't doing it for a payday.
It's not just like a panel show talking about a panel show talking about a panel show. So
not Nick Rewalt saying that mental health is a bullshit excuse.
Yeah, no. Anyway. Which made Harry Mackay kicking a goal to win Spud's game really sick, man. Like, it was really cool. After all the shit he copped, it was really cool. Speaking of players' mental health, I did see that the AFL has after reminding teams about injury lists a couple of weeks ago, has very sternly reminded clubs that players did sign the new agreement, which means that all players who played that weekend must be available for up to 48 hours after the game to speak to media, because clubs have been making players unavailable with high regularity this year.
Interesting.
And the AFL's basically been like, hey, reminder, your players signed this deal. Like, this
who Who is not showing up for interviews?
I don't know, because Clayton Oliver can't even get away when he's not playing. They will follow him to the park where he's walking his dog. And they're like,
actually think he
Clayton, are you okay?
I think he lives in that park. It's based on his hair and his attire and his general demeanour. I think he's been there a while.
And like, when I saw that, I was like, the man's taking a mental health break and you're following him around?
That joke feels mean after you mention the mental health
Yeah,
break.
but like, he looks wild. But it's one of those ones where it's like, that's where you leave the player alone. Like, if he's taking a week for mental health reasons, you don't doorstop him.
I've always thought waiting outside the club is fine to an extent. That's very funny. Cat turned on the washing machine.
It's just turned off an hour later.
Waiting outside the club is fine because they're going there for their work purposes, right? I mean, they could just be going there to use the gym, which I guess technically is tangentially still work related. But waiting for them outside their home or at the park, or if you see them at the local shopping centre and stopping them from an interview, don't do that.
Don't be doing that.
And Clayton Oliver will be back. I'm almost certain, and he will.
Well, he played
hopefully
this week.
Be
He tagged.
Yeah, I know, but like, you know what I mean by back.
And I feel like the problem is that's because Viney's out, who is already overpaid as a tagger, and now they've got a guy they're paying even more to use as a tagger with Oliver. I think there's a bit of a problem with Melbourne where people are talking about like trading him out for not much, so that another club will take his whole salary.
Yeah.
And like the problem with Melbourne is they've never been able to land a big fish as a destination club. So like, sure, you can offload his salary, but unless you have someone that you think you're able to bring into the club using that big chunk of money that it frees up, like the benefit might not be there. Maybe they're much more confident that Luke Jackson will come to the club than people realise, or something like that. But
what is there? The problem with trading out in Oliver is you've got a dearth of top end midfielders right now. They've got some good picks. They've got Langford. They've got
Trent Rivers will be good.
They've got
Tholstrup should come on. But
there's another one I'm forgetting.
Windsor.
No. Lindsay.
They've
got a slew of really, really young players, and then they've got Oliver, Petrarca, Viney, Gorn.
Lever, mate. You need
the difference between their very top end and their good young talent. That middle section leaves some to be desired.
And you need
Bowie's good.
Yep. You need to keep the top end guys there while the younger players mature up.
If you lose Oliver, Petrarca can't be swinging forward and mid.
No.
Jack Viney, who knows how long he will be around for. Salem as well.
He's fit-ish this year.
Yeah. So like I just feel like this is one of those situations where there's too much of that gap in the middle, and if they trade Oliver out, they have to bring someone in that mid range.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. Like, there's no point getting rid of him just to free up the salary cap if you're not bringing in someone to replace him.
Especially when the people who might be leaving, like Warple, might be getting more of a payday at that second club.
Speaking of people offering salary, St Kilda should take all of the money that they're offering to De Koning and put it on top of what they're offering to Wanganeen-Millera. Because if he leaves, they're bad.
Not only that, take that money that they're offering to TDK, and I'm open to them taking it.
I know you're not.
Before the podcast. Split it. Wanganeen-Millera, Philippou, Owens. Mm-hmm. Give them pay rise across the board and keep them until they retire.
Really, really good. I made a joke. Thankfully, I made it in a group chat and not publicly. But I made a joke about Philippou being in. And I was like, is he? Halfway through the second quarter. And then he just turned it on from that moment onwards.
He is going to be destructive.
He's awesome. Them. Owens is great. They don't need, and they don't. It's been talked about a lot, but like for a lot, like the last however many All-Australian ruckmen, only Max Gawn has finished top 4, let alone won a flag.
Yeah.
They've got one of the best 5 rucks in the competition in Rowan Marshall. They don't need a ruck. They don't need to be spending. They need to spend money to fix the other problems they've got. They need a key defender to back up Wilkie. They need a key forward to back up King, or when King's missing.
That's part of their deal. Is one of Marshall or TDK will play forward.
But they're not. But they're not good enough.
I think Marshall is, but I don't think TDK is.
Yeah, but I don't think either of them are good enough to be paying them both that much money when they're both top 5 rucks.
Yeah.
You could spend that money like Moneyball is the like.
Yeah.
But you look at the way...
Do what Collingwood did the year they won the flag.
Yeah,
no
pull
one
in people
for
who
picking
fit...
up McStay, Bobby Hill.
But they fit exactly the
Markov,
problems they
all
had.
those players.
Two great examples, especially from a podcast that mostly talks about defenders, are the way that last year Hawthorn and Gold Coast both went out to fill holes in their back line. Very specifically, Gold Coast said we need two running intercepting key, defenders who are able to also lock down if need be. And Hawthorn said we need two actual key defenders so we can use Hardwick and Sicily as swingmen literally whenever we want. And they both went and found those players and brought them into their club, and those parts of their ground are performing the exact way they wanted it to do. And St Kilda have seen the fact that they already have a highly functional ruckman who can tap it to their midfielders and have gone, we need a ruckman.
He is 29, but ruckman play longer these days.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still of the opinion if you can land a big fish, and TDK could potentially be the best ruck in the league in a few years' time.
When he's on, he's incredible.
He's not right now. He's never been All-Australian. He's never kicked more than 20 goals in a season. He's never played a full season as the full-time ruck. This is the first time he's played from round 1 through to current game. There's been no indication that someone is going to be coming in to assist him. It would be crazy to give him a contract that big off of potential only.
Yeah, and especially
for a ruckman.
And especially if you've already got Marshall.
Yes.
I think it's very different for a team
to grab
currently doesn't have a ruck
or something.
But I think it'd be very different for a team who's not St Kilda, who doesn't already have Marshall, to offer De Koning that much money because they want to fill that ruck slot for the next 10 years. Yeah. But St Kilda have the next 5 years of main ruck covered.
I mean, I don't think he has any interest in it, but like Adelaide currently have Riley O'Brien, and if they could replace Riley O'Brien with TDK,
I'm sure they'd leap at it.
That would be someone you pay a lot of money
to. The showdown king, apparently. He has the highest average rating points.
Yeah, you were saying
and then he took those marks in the last quarter, and I was like, he just lives for the showdown, O'Brien. He lives for it.
Wonder what he writes in his phone about showdowns.
That's why I'm seeing all these articles about like football's smartest player, and it's all the like degrees and doctorates he's got. It's like he can't even use his fucking notes app.
I was this close to sending an audio message of me flushing the toilet to my older sister today.
But like that's one that I can get, right? But I know how the notes app works, and you can't accidentally tweet a note.
Yes, you can. Watch me do it right here.
How many buttons do you have to press?
1, 2.
What does it share to Twitter though? Does it share the words?
All of it.
Interesting. But it's bread.
It's three clicks.
So he also specifically wrote a note that was Twitter character length.
Because he doesn't know enough words.
Anyway, and then Nick Nutnell giving him the phone is the funniest part of that.
It's one of my favourite things.
The only other one it's because it's the complete opposite end of the spectrum was the ham with Harry Taylor. Because he kept the ham in his sock and like hams gross very quickly.
And I don't want to talk about the incidents that have been happening in the last few weeks, but I do think it would be very funny if Harry Taylor did something strange to Willie Rioli. He would probably not cross the line, but he'd do something very strange.
He was a weird man.
No commenting about that situation.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
One of those ones that gets called, like, there's like people get called a strange cat, and it's like that means that not many people hang out with that guy outside of the club. That's basically what that's code for. Like, he was a bit of a strange cat. And it's like everyone like sees him working like he's a nice guy, but he's odd.
I don't think I've ever sensed it to that. I think I just call people weird dudes.
Yeah, but like footballers have to use their like clubland language, where they have to be friends with all their teammates, even if they're actually not. So they use things like, he's a bit of a strange cat, and you're like, okay, so you don't talk to him. I get it. But like Harry's from out of Northampton. He's from a town that's not in, like, it's out of Geraldton, and he's from out of that town that's out of Geraldton.
It's the town where they greet each other with ham.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So if you greeted Paul Hazelby or Patrick Cripps with ham, they'd get it. If you gave them a slice of ham, they'd be like, oh, nice to see you too.
If Carlton do an open training session, I'll make sure to bring my
some
best forest ham.
This has gotten off the rails.
That's always end up off the rails because I have undiagnosed, I'm assuming, because I haven't been diagnosed, ADHD.
And I have been diagnosed.
We get about 20 minutes into the podcast and I start thinking, what am I doing here?
There's a microphone in front of me. I'm just talking shit. I feel like sometimes we just like drift off to tangential conversations that we'd normally be having because one of us is playing video games and not paying attention to what they're doing.
Like this is where I sit and talk about football with you whilst you're playing Assassin's Creed and I'm eating my dinner.
Or we're just watching the football and the game sucks. And we're talking about another game that we're much more looking forward to. Anyway, that's been another episode of The Back Pocket. You can find us online at The Back Pocket AU.
Another one.
Anywhere. And we're almost at the bye round, so the votes are going to get weird. Or they're not, because they're mostly full-ish weeks this year.
We'll figure it out. I think we did write it down.
I think we said we were just going to do 5,
season.
4, 3, 2, 1 this year because they're all like 6 or 7 games at least bye rounds. I think that's a better setup, actually, from the AFL this year. I think the bye rounds only missing between 2 and 6 teams every week is a way better way than like last year where we were missing 8. So, hell yeah, I guess.
You'll hear it when it happens.
You will. Bye.
See ya.